All right, so we're going to go over how to make a nice scatter plot in Google Sheets. So taking something like this, which just automatically makes with some data, to something maybe with some flair and some editing. So I'm going to go ahead and go back here. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you make one of these graphs, which by the way, I'm just going to show you how to create this in the beginning. So when you start off, if you have titles instead of just data, it will put those on the graph for you, but you can't have any text in here. So if you write like milliliters per second after each one of these, it won't be able to graph it. So make sure it's only numbers, and then you can go ahead and insert the chart, or you could insert it from here. And it usually shows up something like this. It knows that I want to make a scatter plot or a scatter chart, scatter graph, whatever you want to call it, because my data is like numerical in both ways. This is fine, but it's not perfect. If you want to change the table title to, or the graph title to make more sense, you certainly can do that just by clicking in here. A lot of this stuff you can just click and edit, but it did it the way I wanted. So I'm not going to change any of that text. But the most important thing that we need to know is going into series. It shows you what those data points look like. And what we always need to include is the trend line. So if you're looking for how to include that, that's what you'll click here. In this case, linear works best, but you can mess around with the other ones to see like, do any of these make more sense? But for us, that's close enough to being linear for here. I don't particularly like the data labels, but if you want, you can customize it a little bit. So because we're Jefferson, I'm going to go ahead and make my line purple. And if you want to get creative, you certainly can change colors. It's definitely not required. That's completely optional. Another thing that I really like to do, I just think it looks kind of pretty, is for these grid lines and ticks. If you want to go in here and kind of mess around with this, so you can make it have little tick marks here, like on the big amounts or the small ones. I kind of like it just because it helps me estimate if I'm trying to find a missing piece here. Also, you can change it. So do you want the ticks to cross the whole thing? Or you could have them like only on the inside, only on the outside, or again, like I had it, you can have those cross, and you can always, of course, choose not to. So there's ways to edit this in a way that meets your needs. And so that was the vertical axis. I'll change to horizontal and just do the same thing. Again, you do not have to do this every time. It's a choice. Another choice I'm going to make is I don't really like how this point is really, really tall on this y-axis. So I'm going to mess with it a little bit. So let's open up the vertical axis. What am I trying to think of? I don't know, heading, options. And then we can have a minimum and maximum value. So I want my maximum value to go up to, let's say 150, just so it gives me some more room here. So that allows it to just kind of be a little bit more free. If you wanted to, you could make the minimum in here as well. Like maybe you want it to be 50. So you can kind of see how drastic that is. I kind of like seeing how it compares to 0. So I'm going to change that back. I like this one. You can do the same thing with the horizontal axis. I think this one kind of makes sense as is, but maybe you want to have it like more centered. So you put like 0 through 7. Oh, minimum 0, maximum 7. What just happened? Oh, I clicked reverse axis order. There we go. So there's all these different options. And if you play around with it, you'll find that you can do like so much more than just this. But I wanted to show you the basics of how to find that trend line again in the series. That's the most important thing that we'll do. And you can change everything like chart style. You can change like the background color, like let's just make it obnoxious. Please don't do this. It's so ugly. I mean, if you want, if it's like something really like subtle and cute, maybe that's like fine. But really the best looking one really is the white background. Maybe if you have some particular style you're trying to convey, that's fine to change, but you certainly don't need to. Another thing that you can change for style is what the shape looks like. Sometimes I like to use squares instead. So those are all options, but you don't have to get crazy. You don't have to spend a whole bunch of time on this. It can be as simple as just making that chart by highlighting, inserting the chart, and then going in to mark the trend line. So that's kind of the main point of how to edit these graphs in Google Sheets.